They say neighborhood drama usually starts with something petty, but mine kicked off with Karen Morrison shrieking thief at me from the middle of my front yard. She stood there in fuzzy leopard slippers and a silk robe billowing in the breeze like some knockoff superhero cloak of righteousness. The sun had barely cleared the rooftops, and already Karen was broadcasting to half the cul-de-sac that I'd robbed the HOA fund. Her voice, sharp, nasal, and dripping with fake certainty, split the quiet morning like a fire alarm. "I have proof!" she cried, shaking a manila folder overhead as though it contained the 10 Commandments themselves. Within minutes, neighbors spilled from their houses like spectators gathering for a parade. Some clutched steaming coffee mugs, others tightened bathrobes around themselves, still half asleep but eager for spectacle. Mrs. Henderson, my next-door neighbor, was already holding her phone out, recording everything before Karen had even finished her second accusation. Knowing her, she was mentally drafting a caption for the Willowbrook Estates Facebook page, "Scandal on Sycamore Lane." I stayed on my porch, coffee in hand, calm as ever, watching Karen perform for the crowd. A little smile tugged at my mouth. She had no clue she'd just lit the match to her own pyre. She thought she was cornering me, but in reality, she was stepping right into the snare I'd been quietly setting since the day I arrived. 3 months earlier, I had moved into Willowbrook Estates, a picture-perfect suburb where lawns were trimmed exactly 2.5 inches tall and HOA newsletters were treated like sacred scripture. After 35 years as a corporate attorney specializing in white-collar crime and regulatory law, I had finally retired. My name carried enough weight in legal circles to make executives sweat. I'd helped take down CEOs, crooked financial officers, even a few politicians. Now I just wanted a slower life, a garden to tend, a dog to walk, and peace. But peace was the one thing Karen Morrison couldn't allow me. Karen had presided over the HOA for nearly a decade. No grand title beyond president, but in this neighborhood that was equivalent to royalty. She policed every detail: who was late trimming hedges, who dared host a backyard party without her sign off, who painted shutters the wrong shade of beige. With a circle of devoted followers orbiting her, Karen played judge, jury, and executioner of suburban life. From the moment I moved in, she marked me as a problem. Maybe it was because I didn't bow to her passive-aggressive reminders. Maybe it was because other residents quietly started asking me about bylaws and policies, questions. Karen would rather no one examined too closely. Either way, I quickly graduated from new neighbor to enemy of the crown. The spark that lit the fuse came during the quarterly HOA budget review. A resident, not connected to me in the slightest, pointed out that nearly $15,000 had disappeared from the Community Improvement Fund. There was no uproar, no investigation, just an uneasy ripple of whispers. But that was all Karen needed. Instead of accountability, she needed a scapegoat. And I was perfect. New, independent, a lawyer who asked too many questions. Karen wasted no time. At the mailbox cluster, she murmured that the money went missing right after I moved in. At coffee gatherings, she hinted at my suspicious late nights, the steady stream of package deliveries to my porch. Her loyal inner circle, Bob Hendress, Martha Simmons, and a few others, ate it up and spread the poison further. Bob glared at me during morning dog walks. Martha started avoiding me altogether, but Karen's appetite for power didn't stop at whispers. She wanted spectacle, a public reckoning, so she filed a formal complaint against me with the HOA, charging me with financial misconduct. She scheduled a special disciplinary hearing for the next monthly meeting, plastered notices on every bulletin board, and warned anyone who'd listen that justice was coming. What Karen never imagined, what never even crossed her mind, was that I'd been quietly preparing for this showdown since the very first day I met her. I knew her type: petty tyrants wrapped in pastel cardigans, mistaking gossip for power. While she was busy whispering rumors at the mailbox, I was filing disclosure requests under HOA statutes. While she plotted drama, I was hiring a forensic accountant I'd worked with during federal cases. Together, we combed through 5 years of HOA financial records, and what I uncovered was worse than anything Karen had ever accused me of. The night of the trial, the community center overflowed with neighbors. Every chair was filled, people lining the walls, some even standing outside the door. Karen had staged the space like a courtroom naturally, me isolated at the front like a defendant, while she prowled back and forth as though she were starring in a primetime courtroom drama. She opened with confidence, brandishing spreadsheets and charts, jabbing her finger at me, painting me as a smooth-talking grifter who had moved into Willowbrook to bleed it dry. At first, the audience seemed to buy it, quiet nods, low murmurs. Then my turn came. I stood, walked calmly to the center, and placed a thick manila folder on the table. Without raising my voice, I thanked Karen for her performance, then opened the folder. The first document was a professional forensic audit spanning 5 years, conducted by one of the top accounting firms in the state. It revealed that the missing $15,000 wasn't new. The siphoning had been going on for years, hidden in padded maintenance fees, phony landscaping projects, and inflated contractor bills. The money wasn't taken by a newcomer. It had been drained systematically by someone entrenched. I flipped the page. Next came bank surveillance stills. The images showed Karen herself, withdrawing cash from the HOA account. Withdrawals she never logged. Transactions scrubbed from official records. The room went silent. You could hear the air conditioner hum, and I wasn't finished. Document after document followed. Fake invoices, forged signatures, shell contractor names, a paper trail of kickbacks, all pointing back to Karen Morrison. Her face drained pale. She opened her mouth once, twice, but only managed a stammer before snapping out a desperate, "This is a misunderstanding. I can explain." I raised one hand calmly and continued. I explained that complaints had already been filed with the State Attorney General, the Consumer Protection Bureau, and the IRS. Yes, the IRS, because Karen had violated the HOA's tax-exempt status repeatedly. Commingled funds, unreported income, these weren't neighborhood squabbles. They were federal crimes. Karen started to shake. The HOA board members, who had sat frozen until then, suddenly stirred into action. They called for an emergency vote to strip Karen of her presidency. It passed unanimously. Karen screamed about procedures and bylaws, clinging to the rules she'd once weaponized. I calmly reminded her that emergency removal for financial misconduct wasn't just allowed, it was mandatory. Then came the knockout blow. From the folder, I produced one last document, a confession, in her own handwriting with her own signature. She'd signed it weeks earlier, thinking she was helping me prepare a financial summary for HOA records. She hadn't read the fine print. The document laid out her misappropriation, her kickback scheme, even her plan to frame me. All witnessed, all legally binding. Karen collapsed into her chair like a balloon losing air. She didn't speak again. 3 weeks later, the state fined her $50,000 and barred her for life from ever holding an HOA office again. The IRS opened its own investigation, and a criminal probe was underway. As for Willowbrook, at the next election, I was voted HOA president in a landslide. Residents I'd barely exchanged hellos with came by to thank me and shake my hand. Karen's long reign of intimidation had left scars. People were ready for change. Karen never saw it coming. She thought she was smearing another neighbor, flexing her control as always. She never realized she had picked a fight with someone whose career had been dismantling fraudsters just like her. So when she opened that official envelope with a $50,000 penalty stapled inside, I hope she finally understood what real consequences look like. That moment alone made every hour of preparation worth it. And for those watching justice play out one signature at a time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.